Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on an all-new edition of War Week Radio. Guys, happy Tuesday evening to everybody. We've got a lot to discuss. In the immortal words of Jerry Reed of Smokey and the Bandit fame, we've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So let's get right down to it. Let's start by introducing our featured guest of the evening, the one and only Mr. IOTBA, our brother, Mr. Corey Bradshaw. Corey, welcome to the program, brother.
Hey, y'all. Man, shout out to everybody on here from the 214 to across the pond.
Come on, man. Let's hear the big intro. Come on now.
Introduce
our one and only topic this evening, Holmes.
Yeah, it's your boy, Mr. IOTBA, Mr. 214, Senor Dos Uno Cuatro, Senor Dos Catorce, Mr. Undeniable, Mr. These boys can't touch me on my worst day.
Never gets old, brother. I love it, man. Guys, we have so much to discuss. Obviously, the big story of the day, Canelo Alvarez, Caleb Plant fight talks break off over disagreements in contract, right? And this was reported by PBC suck-up Mike Coppinger. So we already know when we're reading this, we're getting one side of the story, right? So let's check it out. Here, EC reports boxing's top star, Canelo Alvarez, was on the verge of a deal to meet Caleb Plant on September 18th. Caleb who? Caleb Plant. Yes, I share that sentiment. In Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena, potentially a PBC on Fox pay-per-view. A pact that was in the works for weeks, but at the 11th hour, talks have broken off over disagreements in the contract. The contract was passed back and forth between Alvarez's team and Al Heyman's PBC over the weekend, and after multiple edit requests, the deal has collapsed over the stalemate. I tell you what, I've got a lot of opinions about this, but Corey, what were your first thoughts when you heard this?
I just knew it. I knew there was no way on God's green earth that this fight was going to go through. And the reason why I knew that, because me and you had previous discussions, and our previous discussions was that Canelo Alvarez was well informed with doing business as Eddie Hearn being the lead promoter. And we know, the ego that Al Heyman got, the ego that he got. He like, no, I'm Al Heyman. I don't care if you Canelo Alvarez or Eddie Hearn. And I knew from the moment, when we had our discussions and you start giving me the litigations over the fight and how possibly this fight wouldn't happen because Canelo Alvarez wanted Eddie Hearn to be the lead guy. It's Al Heyman's ego.
Well, you know what? Well, it's there are a lot of egos involved with this, right? Including Canelo Alvarez. And once again, guys, he is the biggest prima donna of the fight game. And this is something that we've known for a very long time. But guess what? He deserves it. He deserves to have that kind of ego, and he deserves to be a prima donna because he's the only one in North America that can move the needle, right? He's the only guy. Like, think about his last pay-per-view versus Gennady Golovkin. That was the last time we've seen a domestic pay-per-view in the States surpass the million mark, the million purchase mark, right? When is the last time you've seen anyone else on PBC, Top Rank, or wherever reach those kind of figures?
It's been a while.
Yeah, well, once again, it's been since Canelo versus Triple G2, right? So, yeah, you can say what you want about the ego of Canelo Alvarez and his demands, but he's earned it. He is the biggest star in North America, like it or not. And obviously, well, Heyman and PBC, they have their own agenda. They desperately wanted Canelo to fight on the Fox platform. And why? because none of Heyman's other fighters can produce those kinds of numbers. Now they're hopeful that Wilder versus Fury 3 will come close to that. Or Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence will surpass the 1 million mark. But until that happens, yeah, I mean, what's the highest grossing pay-per-view that they've had? PBC.
Was it
Since
Earl
they
Spence?
started this deal on Fox? Nope. It was Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman. They did 500,000 units. Now, keep in mind, guys, that's Manny Pacquiao, and they're only doing 500,000 units. And once again, it's because of piracy. Piracy, it remains the biggest problem in boxing, in the business end of it. It's the sole reason why more premium matchups don't materialize and don't become a reality, right? Shout out to Wayne. He joins us, Mr. Wayne Hennessy. Salute Joe and Mr. LTBA.
What's up,
Salute
Wayne?
to you, my brother. Thank you for joining us. So, guys, just like I stated earlier, Mike Coppinger, the biggest PBC shill of mainstream media, now working for ESPN. This is what, and once again, he didn't get any quotes from Canelo Alvarez or Eddie Reynoso or Eddie Hearn, but he sure did get a quote from Caleb Plant, right? Correct. I mean, this is a guy who's been featured on Fox, and he's headlined in his last stint on Fox fighting Caleb Truax, did over 2 million viewers. Mm-hmm. Not bad at all. Mm-hmm. But is he even close to being the B-side? Like this guy, is there anyone outside of Nashville or the diehard boxing community who even knows who he is?
No, don't nobody know.
Okay, so is this the B-side? Is this the B-side or is this the C+ side?
I think it's the F side, especially when it comes to Canelo with this guy, because he hasn't fought no one with a sustainable name that's on his resume. He just don't have that. So
you didn't think the German Etzel Vincent Feigenbutz was a credible name on his resume? No. Okay, so this is what Caleb No Draw Plant had to say, right? Quote, his bark is bigger than his bite, Plant told ESPN during a phone conversation Tuesday evening. Canelo was offered the highest guarantee of his career. He was set to make $40 million plus Mexican TV rights and his Hennessy sponsorship. No problem. Let's fight. We gave it to him. Okay, right there, red flag. We gave it to him?
Yeah.
Brother, would you have any Mexican TV rights if it weren't for Canelo? Would you have any mainstream sponsorship if it weren't for Canelo? Brother, get this through your head. You're not giving him shit. That's Canelo. And once again, Mike Carpenter, he doesn't even call this guy out on it. Okay, now keep in mind, in all defense to Mike Carpenter, he's just reporting in this situation. No problem. I respect that. That's great. So he goes on to say this. No problem. Let's fight. We gave it to him. Then they wanted the upside of the gate and pay-per-view revenue. No problem. Okay, so they were so generous, they gave him the upside of the gate and the pay-per-view revenue. Once again, that's Canelo's because, brother, you don't draw. You're not a huge draw. Dude, have you ever been on pay-per-view? Have you ever even come close to being on pay-per-view? Okay,
and
so
Joe, can I say this real quick before you move on?
Go ahead, sir.
Like when you said, have you ever been on pay-per-view? And I think them 2 million views, which they are good, they're a little misleading when you're fighting on a premier free network as Fox.
Home of the Simpsons.
Exactly. So I think that's misleading when he say, oh, I did 2 million people watching me on Fox. Well, duh, I can go on there and get 2 million people to watch me because that's Fox, me. Somebody who don't box. I can just go on there and say, beat me up and have 2 million views.
So let's move on. This gets rich, man. Quote, It was always agreed that it was a title unification, no rematch for either fighter. Towards the end of negotiations, they asked for a rematch when they lose. Wow. No problem. You can have the rematch as well. I just want to fight. Wow. Turned down Canelo 2 times before, but now he wants to fight. Plant told, listen to this. Plant told ESPN he agreed to his side of the deal 2 weeks ago with no arguments about money or any stipulations. Well, no shit, brother. Because even if Canelo was offering you $4 million, that would still be a career high payday. So if Heyman is offering you $10 million, of course you're not going to have any arguments about money or any stipulations because you bring nothing to the table, just an IBF trinket. That's it. Ching Gao, dude. So he goes on to say this. Quote, one that is absurd, a stipulation that a ridiculous request is what he called it. If I get injured or sick, then he gets a late replacement for the same amount of guaranteed money. But if he gets sick or injured, then we got to wait for him. We're 7.5 weeks from the fight. We've lost valuable time that should be spent promoting and drug testing for a fight of this magnitude. Okay, now once again, if I get injured or sick, then he gets a late replacement for the same amount of guaranteed money. Yes, that's right, because no one is paying to see you. They're paying to see Canelo. This guy, man, and once again, you can't blame him. He's a product of PBC. Heyman consistently blowing smoke up his fighters' asses. They think they're hot shit. They think they're much bigger commodities than they actually are. Like, this guy has no clue what his realistic market value actually is. Zero. Brother, you couldn't even sell out in your hometown of Nashville. All right? So he finally says, taking a stab at Canelo Alvarez, right? A guy who's already a first ballot Hall of Famer and the best pound-for-pound fighter in boxing. Has a better resume than pretty much anyone else in the sport outside of Manny Pacquiao. He says, quote, I question whether legacy or money is the real motive. We've been waiting for him to get done with his wedding, shooting his TV show, his golf tournament, and now we've tried to give him everything he wants and more to make this fight. I'm more than willing, able, and ready to fight Canelo Alvarez on any date. Those are the real facts. And if anyone has something to say differently, we have the paperwork to prove it. End quote. Brother, all you have is what Heyman has told you. Let me go back. This is what's so comical about this. Listen to this. He says, I'm more than willing, able, and ready to fight Canelo Alvarez on any day. Really? Well, then why the fuck don't you tell Heyman to stuff it and fight on DAZN like they originally wanted, with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Sport being the lead promoter? Why can't you do that, Caleb? Because you left your nuts in Heyman's pocketbook. Brother, why don't you just tell it like it is? He's my father. I do whatever he says. Brother, you could easily tell Heyman, look, Al, I appreciate what you've done for me up to this point, but this is my opportunity, a career-defining fight. And remember, several weeks ago, I told you that this is what it was going to take for this fight to take place. I said Caleb Plant was going to have to stand up Al Heyman and say, look, Al, I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I really want this fight. And unfortunately, the only way I'm going to get this fight is if I compete on a rival platform on DAZN on a Matchroom Sport promotion. That's the only way that this is going to happen. And if you stand in my way, then I will know that you're not working on behalf of my best interest. You're working on behalf of your own best interest. Okay, so what's changed? Let's change
No,
your
that's
thoughts on this before we move forward.
no. That's well said, Joe. Like, get you a big old hand clap for that. That's well said. Now listen, Joe. We already know that Al Heyman is a multi, right? We know Caleb Plant. Like I tell people, fighters dream to get to this pinnacle right here. And if Caleb Plant has any kahunas, he gonna stand up to Daddy and Al Heyman and say, "No, I'm gonna take this fight. I'm gonna go with everything Canelo say." And then for the nerve of Caleb Plant, like Mr. Who, we're gonna start calling him Mr. Who because nobody knows who you are. Talking about we gave him everything you want. Like you said, Joe, no shit. You had no choice, Caleb Plant, but to give him everything you want. Talking about, oh, it's 7.5 weeks out. We ready to get this fight. Oh, okay, like the last two times when you turned down the fight, Caleb Plant, you was ready to get that fight too. Oh, now all of a sudden, this fight you ready to get it, and you gonna let Daddy, who already a millionaire over there, tell you not to make the biggest payday in your life. They just show how these PBC fighters are privileged and they are fools.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And once again, guys, get ready for it because you're going to hear a lot of pro PBC and Haymanites, guys who I question whether or not they're actual fans of boxing. And I think that they're just merely fans of a specific platform, right? Because you're going to hear now, guys, from this point forward, if this fight does not materialize, and if they can't salvage this deal, you're going to hear a lot of PBC sympathizers start to regurgitate the nonsense that Canelo is ducking Caleb Plant. Okay, he fought Floyd Mayweather. He fought Triple G twice. He fought Sergey Kovalev at 175.
Fought Arizona Laura.
But he's ducking Caleb Plant.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, you're going to hear that. And once again, oh, we gave him everything he wanted. Well, it was his. You didn't give him shit. Dude, okay, so he's implying if someone gives you something, he's implying that he had it to give. Brother, you don't have shit. And that's the problem. That's the reason. That's the reason why this broke down is because they don't understand. Canelo is the draw. Canelo calls the shots. And once again, this is what he's grown accustomed to receiving. The red carpet treatment. This is why he left Golden Boy. And I tell you what, Eddie Hearn set the bar extremely high. Eddie Hearn's no dummy. He saw, oh shit, Canelo Alvarez is a free agent. Well, I tell you what, we're going to lobby to stage his next event against my fighters. And even though Canelo wasn't officially on the Matchroom Sport roster, boy, he put on that chapstick and he kissed Canelo's ass to the dismay of his fighters. How many times do you hear Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders bellyache? That he's like, oh, wait a minute. I've been signed to Matchroom Sport forever and a day. And he's kissing this guy's ass? Well, yes, of course. Because Canelo is the only fighter in the Matchroom stable that moves the needle in North America. Eddie Hearn knows this. This is the reason why Heyman has been trying to cultivate opponents. Like Caleb Plant doesn't even realize that he's been bait this entire time for Canelo Alvarez. Do you think Heyman as a headliner on Fox, flagship mainstream Fox, home of the Simpsons, home of the NFL, just because he thought he was a great fighter and a great draw? No, he's trying to cultivate opponents to lure Canelo over to Fox. Why do you think he had Anthony Durrell headline a Fox card? To try and cultivate as many potential opponents as he possibly can at 168 pounds for Canelo Alvarez. He's been lobbying to try and get Canelo. But once again, what he didn't do and what Eddie Hearn did, right? What he didn't do was kiss Canelo's ass and give him everything that he wanted. Now, I know firsthand, guys, because when he fought in San Antonio against Callum Smith. He rented out the entire Grand Hyatt Hotel for an entire week, putting all of the fighters in the bubble, just papering all of San Antonio downtown with Canelo's big mug on every single building, right? Look at the introduction. Look at Canelo's interest with the fireworks, with the mariachis. I mean, he really rolled out the red carpet and kissed his ass, stroked his ego. Yes, Canelo, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, that's something that Al Heyman wasn't willing to do. Well, guess what? That's why you're not getting Canelo. In comparison, Canelo's looking at this and going, why are we even doing this? Why are we even having to negotiate with these clowns? They've got nothing to offer. What can they offer me that I can't get already at DAZN? So I tell you what, enough of this shit. We're going to just dump this, right? We'll move on, and we'll move on to a bigger marquee matchup against Gennady Golovkin, the third fight. And once again, this is a 39-year-old Gennady Golovkin, one whose level or market value has diminished considerably. But tell me, Corey, a diminished Gennady Golovkin, a guy who's slipped and isn't nearly as big of a draw as he used to be, but he's still a bigger attraction on the mainstream level than Caleb Plant now, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. You know, it's still a lot of Latino fans. When you speak Triple G, they say Mexican style. And you have to understand, Latino fans, they are a huge part of this sport. And when you have Latino fans on your side, like Triple G had on his side, even though he was fighting Canelo, that's huge. His market value is way more higher than Caleb Plant. Like, Caleb Plant is like a mustard seed in this boxing game. And the audacity of this guy, you know, to act like he this and act like he that when it comes to Canelo. They just show you how privileged and how these PBC guys think. Like, this is total ridiculousness. Like, because when it comes to Canelo, we know he is the top dog, numero uno. It shouldn't even be no question. It should be just, yes, Canelo. Yes, Canelo. However you like it, Canelo. Yes, Canelo. That's all we should hear out of anybody.
Yep.
If you're trying to get that fight with Canelo.
That's absolutely correct. We want to thank Iron Fist Boxing for joining us. Thank you for joining us, brother. And he says it's called good business. And then he goes on to further say, Al Heyman was going to give him $40 million guaranteed. Please. Okay, so my question to you is, you don't think DAZN, with their 8 million subscribers, can give him $40 million to fight Triple G? This is the fight that they wanted the entire time. They will more than likely be able to match that at least. And they're going to be willing to give Canelo everything he wants, right? And why? Because he's the biggest draw in North America. Okay? That's it. I mean, Caleb Plant, other than having that IBF trinket, what else did they bring to the table? What else?
Nothing. He brings absolutely nothing, Joseph. Nothing. That's why when Iron Fist say that, I just think you're jumping the gun too quick when you talk about business and Al Heyman was going to give him $40 million. So what? Canelo could go to any network and fight on somebody's network and get $40 million. Duh.
Yeah, and they'd more than likely get better treatment, right? Once again, it's the ego and the ultimate agenda of Al Heyman, right? And once again, I have no problem giving credit to where credit's due. You look at Heyman's schedule, because he's currently in 2 contract years with both Showtime and Fox. So he's really working hard to put together 2 of the best schedules that he could possibly make. And he is, man, it's lights out. Give credit to where credit's due. Al Heyman and Tom Brown They're doing an amazing job this year, right?
Yeah, Joseph, I give them credit this year, but you just said made a great point. It's a contract year. Like, what
That's
about
right.
all the other years? We can't forget about all the other years when we were asking for these fights. The only reason why I want everybody to understand this, the only reason why Al Heyman is putting on good fights, and thank you for that, Al Heyman, because we love the sport of boxing. Only
Yep.
reason why he's doing that is because it's a contract year.
That's it. That's the only reason, guys. And once again, memo to every network who's interested in doing business with PBC and Al Heyman, give them a 1-year deal only, always, so we can see this kind of product, because it's been amazing. And they have owned the summer. Not Matchroom Sport, not Top Rank, definitely not Golden Boy. It's been all PBC, and it's been a credit to the sport.
Hey, but Joe, let me ask you this question real quick.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Ask you this question real quick, and I want to know your personal thoughts on this. With Canelo, with them not getting that Canelo fight, isn't this a huge blow, for the renegotiations with Al Heyman and a new deal with Fox? Ain't this a huge blow?
That's a very insightful point, Correa, and I'll tell you why. Who else? Because once again, Fox, they've already stipulated, look, we expect 4 or 5 pay-per-views every single year. Look what they've had thus far. Andy Ruiz versus Chris Arreola. Shit. Then they're going to get, and once again, credit to Al Heyman for putting this together and coming up with the money to put it together, right? Errol Spence Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao, lights out. That is a great fight. Credit to him for putting it together. And you know what? He just picked up the ball when Bob Arum fumbled it. Bob Arum could have put together Terrence Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao, but he didn't want to come up with the money. He thought it was too big of a risk. Credit to Al Heyman for putting that together, right? Credit to Al Heyman for quickly putting together with Bob Arum Wilder versus Fury 3. Of course, we're not going to get that until October, but it's coming, and it's going to be a great pay-per-view with a stacked heavyweight undercard. Tremendous event. Tremendous event. What else does he have on pay-per-view? What else could he? This is why he was lobbying so hard to try and get Canelo, to try and salvage that contract with Fox, get an extension. Without Canelo, I'm not sure that happens. It's going to be contingent on whether or not they make money. Okay? It's going to be contingent on whether or not they make money with Spence Pacquiao and Wilder Fury. And in this...
Joe, you there? Well, I think we had technical with Joe. He should be back. But let me tell everybody this.
Is that
Al Heyman, we know how they move. Joe, start over. We couldn't hear you, Joe. You cut off.
I'm cutting off?
Like 30 seconds.
Okay,
you
I'm
did
sorry
cut
about
off.
that.
Can you repeat that back over? Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, you're great. You're great.
Okay. What is the last thing you heard from me?
You was basically like, with them not getting Canelo to sign.
Okay.
This is putting
so once again, the onus is now on Pacquiao, Spence, and Wilder Fury to deliver. And with those guaranteed purses, it's going to be tough to actually make money on these deals, right? And once again, you've got piracy to thank for this, right? And once again, you can't avoid it. It's the biggest problem in the business of boxing right now. It's the sole reason why we don't see more premium matchups on a regular basis, because very few promoters are willing to fork over that kind of money and take that kind of risk. They're not confident that boxing diehards are going to purchase these events, right? So here it is. Check this out. Okay, Iron Fist, I forgive everything that you said about me about despising Al Heyman. because I'm very objective. I give credit to where credit's due, but I definitely call out bullshit when I smell it. So Iron Fist says, respect to bro, respect to both of you guys. On the real, y'all are big boxing fans, and I'll continue to support everything y'all do. And likewise, my friend, we will support everything you do as well. Thank you for tuning in, brother.
Likewise. Thank you, Iron Fist. It's just a difference of opinion, sir. There's nothing wrong with having a difference of opinions. You know, you may feel one way, we may feel another, but at the end of the day, we all have one common thing in common. We love the sport of.
Oh, okay, so one of the primary reasons, and let me just address that. You say I despise Al Heyman. I know you just stated that before I went on my diatribe, right? So you may not believe that now, and you shouldn't, because I don't have any emotional.
He put that up?
Okay, you want me to put that up? Okay. Say, Joseph, be real, bro. You despise Al Heyman and the PBC. Brother, I just covered one of their events. I was ringside for Charlo versus Castaño. I don't despise anyone in this business, right? And once again, I do disagree with certain business practices of Al Heyman, right? I do disagree with some of his business. And once again, I can't stand promoters, and he's not the only one who's guilty of it. So is Matchroom Sport and Eddie Hearn, obviously. But I can't stand when promoters overpay fighters, right? To try and I know why they're doing it. They do it to try and attract talent. But ultimately, it's a bad business practice. And why? To pay them way above their market value? Because when it comes time to try and negotiate a real fight, okay, when they've grown accustomed to receiving millions for soft touches, how much do you think they're going to demand for a tough matchup? It makes it impossible.
Look at Sean Porter. He turned down $2 million. Look at Sean Porter. He said $2 million wasn't enough for Terence Crawford.
He didn't say that. He said it was insulting.
Yeah, insulting.
So once again,
like he just this big draw.
So once again, you've got fighters who have been on the payroll of Al Heyman, right, for over half a decade, saying that $2 million is insulting. Well, when you get prize fighters saying that $2 million is insulting, there's something wrong, especially when you've never been a ticket seller. You've never been a marquee draw. You've never been an A-side headliner, ever. There's something wrong there, guys. And once again, that's the problem. That's why we don't see more premium matchups happen. And that's why you're going to see more. Expect this, guys. You're going to see more fights break down than materialize because of the money, because they're used to these inflated purses. So I think Heyman is wonderful for his clients, but he's terrible for the business of boxing, for the health of the sport, because inflating fighters' purses hurts the health of the sport. Hurts the overall health of the sport in the long run. It makes it virtually impossible to make these fights happen. As you were, brother. Go ahead,
No,
Greg.
I agree with you that it's one for his fighters. No, can you hear me? Can you hear me,
I can hear you just fine, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, sir.
Okay, so I agree with you that he wonderful. Okay, I agree with you that he wonderful for his fighters. Like, it's good that they getting paid, but that's not good for the sport when we not getting the fights that us as boxing fans want to see. Yeah, he's paying these guys these inflated purses. Great for them. Great for them. But the fights that we want to see, we are not getting. And that is, yes, I despise the way Al Heyman handles himself in boxing. So Iron Fist, don't say Joe, say Mr. IOTBA. I despise the way he handled himself when it comes to his fighters and business in boxing.
You're absolutely right. And once again, he's not the only one guilty of it. Look at Devin Haney. That's why no one wants to sign him right now. Okay, Devin Haney has grown accustomed to making $3 million rock per outing, regardless of opponent. Now, how much do you think he's going to expect when he steps in the ring with someone like Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis, Vasil Lomachenko, anyone? How much do you think he's going to expect if he's already receiving $3 million to fight Yuri Orkis Gamboa? He's going to expect double that amount, at least. Okay, that's a problem. That's why no one wants to sign Haney. And once again, I feel bad for Devin. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. And it's not these fighters' fault that they've grown accustomed to receiving this. They don't know. They don't understand their realistic market value. Right? So Iron Fist asked us, and we got a couple questions here, man. Skill Bender, we'll get to you, brother. I'm not arguing against myself, Holmes. So Iron Fist asks, Plant or Triple G, who's the more difficult outing for Canelo at this time? Correa, I'll give you your first dibs on this, and I'll chime in later.
I'm going to go. I don't care if he's 39 years old or not. You know, we done seen fighters show that age ain't nothing but a number. When you look at Triple G and you see the resume he got and his amateur pedigree, absolutely, he's still the hardest fight for Canelo. What you think, just because Caleb Plant at 168, this guy has no experience, like a mustard seed of experience that compares to Triple G or Canelo. So I'm picking GGG by a land stretch as being a tougher fighter.
No, you're absolutely
because
right.
We already seen Triple G in the first fight. We already seen him in the first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, there's a reason why Canelo balked at the idea. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Correa?
Yes.
Okay. There's a reason why Canelo balked at the idea of a third fight against Triple G. Right? There's a reason for that. Those were two very difficult fights for him. Even at 39, this is a guy who lives the Spartan lifestyle. He doesn't blow up between fights. He doesn't drink like a fish. Right? This is a guy who's a gym rat. He stays in the gym 24/7. This is a guy who always gets the most of himself in every single fight because, yeah, he stays in the gym, right? Caleb Plant is also, to his credit, one of those guys. But he doesn't have the same power, doesn't have the same deep amateur pedigree. He doesn't have the same experience. And we don't know that he has the same chin. Canelo already knows that Triple G can take his best shots, spit it out, and keep coming forward. He already knows this. We don't know if Caleb Plant has a rock-solid chin at this point. It's never been tested. Look at his resume. Look at his fights. Just because he got touched up a little bit by Jose Cuevas-Pategui, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll take that. But I tell you what, let's go to the next question from Iron Fist Boxing Channel. Correa, I'll give you this, brother. How many pay-per-views do you think Crawford versus Porter sells? I'll say this. In lieu of when you look at what's happened with Caleb Plant and Canelo breaking down, now I'm not so sure Crawford-Porter even happens. I'm not getting a warm fuzzy from that now, right? Keep in mind, Bob Arum is banking on a collaborative effort with Al Heyman. He's hoping to strike a deal similar to Wilder versus Fury, in which PBC is going to be responsible for Porter's big purse, and Arum's going to be solely responsible for his man's big purse. That's the only way this fight happens. Right?
Yeah, but look, on another note, Joe.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, but on another note, though, since we know that this Canelo has broken off, this make this Sean Porter versus Terrence Crawford fight, just in my opinion, more intriguing because it's like all the big fights we wanted to get, it's like we're losing the big fights. So I just think this make boxing fans out here, especially the diehards, more hungrier to see this fight. But what Iron Fist said, how many pay-per-view buys do you think Crawford versus Porter sell? I think everybody's been waiting to see Crawford go up against one of these guys in PBC. And I could see easily Crawford doing between 200 and 300,000 against Sean Porter.
You know what? I would guess, because of the reasons that you just stated, and I agree wholeheartedly, everyone has been waiting for this event, right? Everyone's been waiting for Terrence Crawford to fight another fighter, another opponent who competes at the elite level. Sean Porter's one of those guys. I think it does better than that. I think it does at least 300 to 400,000 pay-per-view purchases. I think, and once again, guys, quality of matchup matters. Quality of matchup matters, guys. You're going to see that Terrence Crawford isn't nearly as unpopular as most of his detractors believe. When you pit him in with a guy like Sean Porter, Errol Spence Jr., Manny Pacquiao, you'll see, guys, that he does respectable numbers, right? Look at his last two events. No one wanted to see him fight Amir Khan. No one wanted to see him fight Victor Postal on pay-per-view. That was a regular subscriber HBO event. But thanks to Peter Nelson, we had to suffer, and we got it on pay-per-view. No one watched it. That's what drove Top Rank to ESPN in the first place, right? So trust me, guys, quality of matchup matters. The boxing diehards, I have faith, guys. I still have faith in you. Okay, I still have faith in anyone who is that passionate about our beloved
And you know
boxing.
what I do?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I do too. And let's give credit to Sean. I do too. Give credit to Sean Porter, right? Let's give much credit to Sean Porter. Even though he done lost in a couple of big fights, one thing we know, Sean Porter gonna give Terrence Crawford everything he's got. Because when it comes to having an elite heart, I don't think it's few in boxing who have a bigger heart, just in my opinion, than Sean Porter. Sean Porter's gonna bring it to Terrence Crawford. He's gonna give him everything he got.
Absolutely. And once again, Sean Porter, whether you like him or not, he's a credit to the sport. He's a guy that lets his heart spill onto the ring canvas every time he fights. He is one of the hardest working guys in boxing. He's a gym rat. He always gets the most of himself. This is why, even though I don't think he has elite level skills, I would say he's got elite level physical and mental durability. This is a guy, and there's a reason why he's never been stopped, right? Even though he's lost against, the three elite level fighters, right, that he's faced, three champions, right? There's a reason why he's lost. But, boy, he always gives a great account of himself, and he always leaves it in the ring. And he's one of the nicest guys in the boxing business. He's a credit to the sport, right? Make no bones about that. But, boy, he's gonna get a beat down against Terrence Crawford. I'm gonna tell you that right now, guys. Terrence Crawford is going to batter him, right? But I can't wait to see it, and let's hope that fight actually takes place now. So going back to our comments, Iron Fist says, I agree. Oh, hold on, man. Hold on. Let me move up. I lost track of someone here, man. Hold on. Let me move up here. I got to give a shout out to our brother, right? Mr. Scalebender, welcome to the show, brother. It's good to hear from you. Scalebender. Don't bring up no Shipley's Donuts now, man. Triple G.
What's up,
tougher. Excuse me. Triple G, tougher in the ring and tougher at the K table. What the hell? Oh, dude, I love you, Scalebender. God bless you, brother.
K table, man?
Yeah. You got to ask him, man. So Iron Fist Channel says, I agree, Triple G is a harder fight, but let's be honest. Canelo will destroy him in the third fight. I got to see it to believe it, right? You're talking about a guy who's a first ballot Hall of Famer and has a record 21 title defenses in the middleweight division, right? This is a guy who has a granite chin. Has he ever even been knocked down? Correct. Has Triple G ever been knocked down?
When he say Canelo is going to destroy him, no, he's never been knocked down, Joe. But my thing with Iron is when he say Canelo is going to destroy him, Canelo didn't do that in either fight. Destroy him in the 2 fights they had. So what merit do you have behind saying that, Iron Fist Boxing Channel?
Well, okay, let's see it. Okay, Plant gets eaten alive in less than 9 rounds. I would agree with that. I think Plant versus Canelo is competitive for the first 4 or 5 rounds because of Plant's obvious attributes. Great athleticism, great reflexes, excellent footwork, great hand speed, decent pop. He's a specimen. But as soon as Canelo finds range and closes that distance, it's all over. I would agree with you, Iron Fist. Great comment. Let's see. Snoop, thank you for joining us, brother. If these network executives and promoters and managers don't care about the quality and integrity of the sport, the fans and their wallets can't make up for that deficit at the top. I would wholeheartedly agree with you, my friend. But when promoters do give us fights that we've been asking for, man, you had better shell out that long green, brother. Once again, you can't have it both ways. When the promoters do throw the dogs a bone, we've got to pay for it. We've got to show them our appreciation. So they keep doing it.
Yeah, but can we?
Go ahead, sir. Correa, are you there, brother? Well, I guess we may have lost Correa momentarily. Snoop also says,
Bob Arum.
Okay, you ducked out for a second there, man. Go ahead. Start from the beginning, please, sir. Correa, are you there, brother? We can't hear Correa. We'll wait for him to get his connection back on. Snoop asks, why negotiations so difficult? Canelo versus Plant, Charlo versus Andrade, Benavidez versus Plant. Well, we just went over that. Benavidez versus Plant, in my opinion, that's a no-brainer. I have no idea why that fight hasn't been made already. Once again, if you're trying to increase the market value of your fighters, Benavidez and Plant, to actually give your guys some leverage when it comes to negotiations with Canelo. Why didn't you stage Benavidez versus Plant to see who gets Canelo? Why didn't you do that? Why? Because that makes sense. Chingao. Charlo versus Andrade, that's a big thing. And once again, you've got 2 different platforms. And once again, the Charlo versus Andrade rivalry goes way back. And upon talking to my brother Ronnie Shields, right, trainer for Jamal Charlo, they insist that they have no interest in ever giving Demetrius Andrade an opportunity. When he was the WBO title holder at 154 pounds, right, he was supposed to fight Jamal Charlo. And at the last minute, they backed out of that fight, right? So Ronnie Shields remembers that, and he says, you know what? Now that we're at this position, now that we're the WBC champion in the middleweight division, we're not interested in Andrade. We remember all of that, and we're not interested. So that's why that fight is not going to take place.
Yeah,
Canelo
but Joe,
versus plant.
But Joe,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but if I remember on that fight, see, Al Heyman tried to pull that tactic with Demetrius Andrade. He was the champion. They were trying to offer him less money
Yep.
to come on PBC to fight. So why would the champion come fight on the home turf when they were treating him so disrespectful as the champion? So I agreed with the move that Demetrius made by not going over
Agreed.
there to
That's right.
PBC. I agree with that.
I agree with that as well. I'm just reporting what my brother Ronnie Shields told me. Does it make sense? Not really. And I don't care. To be honest with you, man, it's like it's sad. I've become jaded and grown accustomed to not seeing these fights take place.
You ain't lying.
And honestly, fuck them. Fuck them. If these guys don't want to fight each other, fuck them. But I will say this to the promoters who put together the matchups that we do want to see. We should all financially support it, right?
Yeah,
we
that's
should.
true. Can I ask you a question, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Do you think it was in Canelo's best interest? Like, I know that he is the biggest star in boxing. I'm not questioning that. When it comes to that guy, it's Canelo. But do you think it would have been in his best interest since it's so many fights at PBC where he can make? Well, he gonna make the money anywhere he go. But there's so many fights over there with a Benavidez, a Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo, so on and so on.
Yep. That's right. That is true. Those are all great fights that the fans would love to see. But once again, got to think of it this way. They're free agents. They don't have any contract or any kind of restriction to one network, right?
Yeah.
Why can't they fight on DAZN?
Facts.
Canelo's the A side, right?
Yeah.
He prefers to roll with Eddie Hearn. And Eddie Hearn, boy, he lobbied. Boy, he rolled out the red carpet for Canelo. He earned that distinction in Canelo's mind, right? Canelo wants to work with Eddie Hearn. That's it. So why can't these guys, if there are indeed free agents and masters of their own destiny, why can't they compete on DAZN? They don't have any network restrictions. Exactly. So once again, that's the problem, guys. It's like Heyman, and I'll give you some. And once again, if you guys go back, and you guys all know this, right? Because you guys have been watching boxing as long as I have, I'm sure. If you go back to PBC, when they first became an entity, Heyman looked at the UFC business model and he said, you know what? That's what I want for boxing. I want to be the biggest show in town, and I've got all of this hedge fund money, and we're going to put boxing back on free network TV, and I now have the biggest roster in boxing, bigger than any other promoter. Like, there was even talk of PBC making their own titles, just like the UFC, becoming their own entity, right? Well, they still have that swagger. They still have that pride. They still have that frame of mind. They still think they're the biggest outfit in boxing, right? As you can see with the Canelo Plant breakdown in negotiations.
They're not.
Right? So once again, let's scroll down here. Let's go to Iron Fist. He says, what are the odds that Porter beats Crawford in an upset? Your thoughts first, correct?
This is boxing in my Joseph Herring voice. Anything can happen. Like, you schooled me on that, Joseph. I understand that anything can happen in the sport of boxing, so I would never disregard like these fighters. I understand anything can happen. But this is just my opinion. Like, Terrence Bud Crawford, like, he been waiting for a moment like this to really show everybody from wherever you at to across the pond that he is more than what they talk about him. He want to show everybody he is the fighter that has been listed on the pound for pound rankings for 5 years in a row. So you say, what are the odds? You know, every fighter have a chance, but I don't give Sean Porter nothing but a puncher's chance, and you know everybody has a puncher's chance. I just think Terrence Crawford skill set is just levels above Sean Porter. Now grit, like Joseph said, what's that word Joseph used? He said, what did you say about Sean Porter, Joseph? When it comes to mentality and physical, like it's
Oh,
no
he's got elite level physical and mental durability.
yeah. Yeah, it's nobody like it's few people like Sean Porter in boxing who has that. You know, can he make this fight uncomfortable for Terrence Crawford? Absolutely. You know, because ain't nobody perfect. You know, we think fighters gonna win, but don't act like we ain't seen upset in years before. This is just my personal opinion. I don't think Terrence Crawford will win, but do Terrence Crawford got the mental and physical durability to make this fight nasty and pull it out? Absolutely, but I got Terrence Crawford.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I'll tell you why Porter is indeed, even though he's not on Terrence Crawford's level, styles make fights, right?
Yep.
In my opinion, in my eyes, dude, are you eating a bag of chips again, brother? Yeah.
No.
No, in my mind, right? Terrence Crawford, his only apparent chink in the armor, his biggest weakness, his biggest deficiency is on the inside. Porter knows this. Kenny and Sean have already evaluated this. They know this. They're going to try and take the fight to the inside as much as possible and try to bait Terrence into a firefight in a phone booth. That's the only chance they have at winning this fight. And you know what? If Terrence Crawford takes the bait and obliges Sean Porter, then look out, man. It could be a real fight. It could be anyone's fight. That's, in my opinion, that's the only chance Sean has of winning. Because if he tries to fight him from mid to long range, Terrence is going to make the adjustment and going to put you in checkmate by the mid to late rounds. He always does. He's one of the smartest fighters in boxing. Go ahead, sir.
You made a great point about Sean Porter. See, I don't think he'll win the fight, but that was a hell of a point you just made about him, like Terrence Crawford not being a great inside fighter, and we know that's what Sean Porter gonna be all night.
Yep.
He went against Earl Spence Jr., who everybody regards as one of the top pound for pound fighters. He made it uncomfortable.
And one of the best inside fighters in boxing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he was one of the best inside fighters in boxing. So damn it, Joe, when I think about this fight, I see Terrence Crawford winning. I don't think it'll be a controversy, but I do understand what you say now about Sean Porter's style and how his style could pose problems for Terrence Crawford.
Well, here's why he'll make it a great fight, just like he did against Errol Spence, but he won't win because he doesn't punch like Igas Cavallasquez. This is where his deficiencies will come into play, and this is what keeps him from being considered the elite at 47. Does Sean Porter compete at the elite level? Absolutely. Because of his durability, both physically and mentally, he can hang with anyone. Will he beat them, though? No, and I'll tell you why. Because according to Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, two PBC fighters who've been in the ring with him, he couldn't punch himself out of a paper bag. And that's the only reason why he will not beat Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, everyone's already seen. He's carried his power up to 47, knocking out everyone he's ever faced at 47. Keep in mind, those guys weren't Sean Porter, but hey, we'll see what happens. I just hope that fight materializes after we just witnessed the Canelo Caleb Plant breakdown. I'm not so positive anymore. right?
And
But
you make
thank
a
you for
great
your
point,
comment.
Joe. No,
Thank
but
you
you
for
make
your
a
question,
great
Iron
point,
Fist.
Joe. You make a great point. I ain't as confident either because if Al Heyman let his ego get that big to where he didn't make this Canelo versus Caleb Plant fight, now we really have to look at Al Heyman. Are you for your fighters or are you for you? Because this is the most money that Caleb Plant could clear in every fight he done faced. This one
Yep.
fight will make him more money than he ever made in his career. And Al Heyman is blocking this fight. So my question is, like, are you for your fighters, Al Heyman, the way he make it seem to be, and how the fighters always say thanks to Al, or is Al Heyman for himself? Because Al Heyman works like this. See, Canelo's just a different breed to where he's on the level to where he don't have to sign a 2 or 3 fight deal. If you're not Canelo to fight on PBC, you're going to have to sign at least a 2 or 3 fight deal and be under Al Heyman's tutelage for at least 2 or 3 fights. Am I right or wrong about that, Joe?
You're right on the money. So let's put this in perspective, right? What would you guys think if Robert the Ghost Guerrero, right, actually made these kind of demands to Floyd Mayweather Jr.? You'd laugh in his face, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's basically what's going on here, guys. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what's going on here. Okay? Let's go to Dalton Voss. Thank you for joining us, brother. Plant is a duck. You know what, brother? It's hard to argue with that, seeing that he's already turned down Canelo twice before. How is Canelo ducking Plant? Al Heyman is behind this. Of course he is, brother. And you don't need us to remind you of that. Thanks for joining us, Dalton Voss. You know what, Snoop? Thank you for joining us, brother. And I'm going to read this. YouTube is a weird platform in the sense that Joseph Heron, an actual boxing journalist, doesn't have the viewership figures as some of these clickbait false narrative channels. Thank you, sir, for
Can I answer that,
out.
Joe? Can I answer that?
Go ahead,
because
sir.
that just show you why boxing is turning into an irrelevant sport. And I love the sport of boxing. I'ma always live, eat, and breathe this sport. But when you got guys who, as professional, as knowledgeable as Joseph Heron, right? And like Snoop said, don't get his just due. That just show you the narrative and the clickbait, how the world thinks now. Everybody just got to understand this is a different era we live in.
Well, I'll tell you guys, and Snoop, thank you for the high regard. I really appreciate that, brother. God bless you, man. It's different. Fans have changed, right? And once again, I bring this up often. I spoke to Buddy McGirt, right? Hall of Fame fighter already, and one of the best trainers in boxing, one of the more respected and revered trainers in boxing, right? He told me he can't stand talking to fans anymore. He said, even though he's a Hall of Fame fighter and soon to be a Hall of Fame trainer, he still has fans on the daily trying to argue with him and debate him because they think they know more and they know better. Now, this is coming from a guy who far exceeds my experience in the ring, right?
Yep.
This is Buddy McGirt. He's already in Canastota as a fighter.
Hall of Famer.
Right? And you've got fans trying to argue with him. He said he can't stand talking to fans these days, and that's the problem. Fans aren't interested in learning anything new. They think they already know everything. It's funny. And in Fight Saga, we had a poll like, why do you actually tune in to certain YouTube channels? Why do you listen to certain YouTube channels and podcasts? And 95% of the responses came back and stated, because I agree with everything that they're stating. So that tells me they're not interested in learning anything new because they already think they know everything.
No, it ain't that they agree with everything they saying. It's
No, no,
just
no.
that
That's what they stated in the poll,
no,
correct?
I know, but the thing is, they agree with the narrative, the bullshit narrative that's being pushed. That's what it is. They don't agree. They just agree with the bullshit narrative that's being pushed because it's their favorite fighters. Not with like guys like you, Joseph, who you don't have no pick, in boxing. You do things the right way. You don't have no pick. You don't come on here spitting a bullshit narrative just to get clickbait. You come on here in my voice. You come on here in my voice and let the truth come to the power and the power come to the truth. Straight up.
Dude, that never gets old, man. Thank you for saying that. No, seriously, Correa, I really appreciate your endorsement. And Snoop, thank you, man, for tuning in regularly to our channel. I appreciate your support, brother. Peter, he says, I am effing tired of this so-called pound-for-pound fighter Canelo ducking and selecting fighters, only thinking of money. I'm ready for a real fight, Crawford versus Porter and Spence versus Pacquiao. I'm ready for that as well, brother. Thank you for joining us. Let's go to Trollmaster Mike. He says, whoever said Canelo is ducking plant fighting a 175-pound demon in Dimitri Bivol, you're smoking crack. Well said, Mike. I'm just going to leave that up there for just a second because that is the gospel.
Is the realest.
No, once again,
is the gospel, boy.
Anyone
Joe,
who
that comment
go
right
ahead,
there.
Sir. Yep.
That comment right there, it got me. I want to clap my hands. I come to stomp my feet. I come to shout for joy. Hey, Troll Master Mike, I don't know what you come to do. Great comment. Well said, bro.
Man, I could listen to your Teddy Pendergrass impression all day, brother. And you missed your calling as an R&B singer, correct? But no, that's absolutely true. Look, guys, anyone who believes that Canelo is purposely ducking anybody, yeah, they just haven't really followed his career or merely hating. Because critical thinking, right? Look at his resume. This guy, if he's willing to step in the ring with a Triple G, an undefeated Triple G, twice, he's not avoiding anybody. If he's willing to step in the ring with an undefeated Callum Smith, the ring-recognized best 168-pound fighter, an undefeated Billy Joe Saunders, right? 2-division world champion. If he's willing to step in the ring with those guys, he is not ducking Caleb Plant.
Joseph, Austin Trout, Erislandy Laura.
An undefeated Austin Trout as well.
Joseph,
now, this is an Austin Trout who just beat the brakes off of Miguel Cotto, future Hall of Famer, in his hometown, or in his adopted hometown of New York during the Puerto Rican parade, right?
Hey Joseph, it don't add up to when people say Canelo is ducking. It don't add up. That just show the pure hatred y'all have for that guy because he is the #1 grossing boxing athlete in the sport. That's just hate.
Yeah, you know what?
It
gets to a point where it has no logical support or any kind of substantial or it doesn't have any support. So you have to kind of call a spade at this point, right? So Ernesto says, hello, everyone. What is the update on Canelo versus Plant? Well, it's dead in the water as of now, but who knows? This is boxing. You never know. This fight could be salvaged. I don't think so, but it could be if Heyman allows Caleb Plant to compete on the DAZN platform. And why not? Right? Why not? Snoop says because Canelo fights multiple times a year, 3 or 4, mandatories won't be as big of an obstacle for big fights as it does for fighters who only fight 1 or 2 times a year. You are absolutely right. Once again, mandatories. You know what? And once again, Canelo, and I'll say this, guys. When you reach the kind of market value that Canelo currently enjoys, he's above mandatories. In my opinion, once he actually becomes the undisputed 168-pound champion, in my opinion, he's not going to be interested in defending his titles against these mandatories. He's going to dump the titles because they're meaningless now. Why fight a mandatory? Why fight a bullshit mandatory? You don't have to. When you get to the point of a Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao or Canelo Alvarez or Oscar De La Hoya in his prime, belts don't mean a damn thing.
Hey, Joseph, you know what pisses me off with Caleb Flint? It's like when you got the opportunity to fight Canelo, after his fight, which he fought a football player, a dude who just started boxing a couple of years ago. He said, I need the proper training camp. I wouldn't give a damn if you had 4 weeks to fight. That's Canelo Alvarez. You don't turn that down. You just don't do it.
No, you don't. No, you don't. This is your career-defining opportunity. This is a career high payday. If you're going to allow your advisor, the guy who's supposed to be working for you, right, on your behalf, if you're going to allow him to keep you from making a career high payday in a career-defining opportunity against the biggest star in boxing, then shame on you, brother. You can cry all you want to Mike Coppinger. Okay, but ultimately, it's your fault, brother. You're the man. Take your career. Take control of your career, brother. Tell Heyman that you need this fight.
Can I ask you something, Joe? So
yes,
with this being off the table right now, do we see a Plant versus Benavidez to make Fox happy?
You know what, brother? Unfortunately, Fox is interested in the pay-per-views. They want to try and make some money. They want to try and make some big money. Let me ask you something, Correa. Plant versus Benavidez? Is that a pay-per-view fight to you?
No, I don't think it's a pay-per-view fight, but I think it's a fight that you put on regular Fox that could get you way more than 2 million views. I mean,
you sure about that?
But I'm not sure. But see, this is what I understand. I understand that they want to get their money off the pay-per-view, but sometimes it's not about, in my opinion, putting everything on pay-per-view to get what's equivalent to the fight to get more viewership. I think if they put Caleb Plant versus a David Benavidez on regular Fox, this is just my opinion, I think it'll do good, solid numbers.
You know what, brother? It should do solid numbers. It should, right? And this has been my question the entire time. Why haven't we already seen that fight? It would have made the Canelo fight so much bigger, right? Most promoters would have already done that. That's a no-brainer. That's promotions 101, right?
Yep.
Why haven't we already seen that is what I want to know.
And you know what? For some strange reason, Joe, I feel like PBC got a problem with David Benavidez because, I feel like he get treated very unfairly over there. Because if you think about it, like, more people know who David Benavidez is than Caleb Plant. Is that fact or fiction?
Fact.
So if you put a guy like 2 Mexican fighters, I don't give a damn because one Mexican-American and one Mexican-Mexican. If you put them 2 together, oh my God. Like, I don't understand how PBC, why the way they treat David Benavidez the way they do. Like, he don't get a fair shake over there. I know he had his mishaps where he missed weight, but everybody know we human beings, we all not perfect, and we all go through our ups and downs. And, so we can't just harp on that too much. But and we have to understand David Benavidez is a young guy. He's a young guy. Like, he's a young guy who has the look, he has the fighting style that'll sell to the market because he's a dog. I don't understand why PBC treat him the way they do, Joe.
Well, and once again, Benavidez has already stated his disdain for PBC. He feels that, one, he's not active enough, and two, he's not getting the kind of fights that he deserves. And I would agree with both. And this is a problem, guys. And this is one of the reasons why Heyman is fighting so hard to keep that Fox contract and to keep those dates. Think about how massive the PBC roster of fighters is, right? Think about how massive that roster is. Now, if they lose that Fox contract, does Showtime have enough dates? And are they willing to spend that kind of money to host and to appease the entire PBC roster? Hell no. Heyman needs both networks. As it is, he's got a lot of very unhappy fighters that only fight once or twice per year. Mm-hmm. That's a big problem for Al Heyman.
Hey, and you know what, Joe? That's well
go ahead,
said.
sir.
But that's well said. That's why I say, that's why I let everybody know, like, Joseph Herron is one of the best in the business. I don't agree with Joseph all the time, but 99.9% of the time, I'm agreeing with him. He is one of the best in the business in breaking down the situation and giving you a clear observation of it, to where, even though we're over YouTube, he paints a picture that's unlike no other. Man, well said, Joseph.
Thank you, Correa. I appreciate that, brother. Let's go to Brother Snoop. He says, is Bill Wagner looking out for Fox's best interest or PBC's? There is a history of conflict of interest when it comes to the PBC organization. Steven Espinoza is a perfect example. Also, the hedge fund guy, you know what? Also, Richard Schaefer of Golden Boy Promotions. Don't forget about that. Snoop, I'll tell you what's wrong with boxing right now. Like back in the day, you remember when HBO was the biggest platform of boxing, and every promoter wanted their fighters to compete on the home box office, right? Well, you had guys like Lou DiBella, like Ross Greenberg, like what's his name? Mark. I for some reason his name eludes me, but guys like Lou DiBella, that's a perfect example, right? He actually understood this and understood that HBO had the clout to hold these promoters' feet to the fire, like in making Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad, two promoters who couldn't stand each other, Bob Arum and Don King. They couldn't stand each other. They hated working together, the idea of working together. But once again, Lou DiBella, he says, you know what? That's the fight that we want, guys. And if you don't get it, we're not interested in paying for anything else. So you either make that or your fighter doesn't compete on our network. Well, guys, those days are long gone. Do you really think Bill Wagner is going to hold Al Heyman's feet to the fire? Do you really think he's going to say, hey, you know what? We need this matchup or else? He's not going to say that. Look at what we've gotten up to this point. Like, keep in mind, Heyman has been working with Fox for years now.
Yep. Hey, Joe, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, sir.
Didn't, and I want you to speak on this to tell me if I'm right or wrong. I feel like Steven Espinoza got the short end of the stick. I feel like Al Heyman played him as a pawn.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on that?
Okay. I'm going to tell everyone a story that I told you a long time ago, right? And this is regarding Al Heyman. And I'm sorry, Ken Hirschman was the guy at HBO that his name eluded me, and now it comes into play. There's a reason why Ken Hirschman didn't want to do any business with Al Heyman or any of Al Heyman's fighters. And that's why at one point in time they went to Showtime, right? Because you can't win. When you're in the negotiation room, right, with Al Heyman, and everyone insists to me, like Richard Schaefer, perfect example. This is a guy who is one of the most brilliant business minds that I've ever met. This guy is a genius level IQ. But Al Heyman, it doesn't matter if you're right. You'll know you're right when you're going into the negotiation room with Al Heyman. But he is so smart and so good at manipulating things to fit his agenda. You'll go in thinking a certain way, and you'll walk out agreeing with Al Heyman.
Yourself.
That's how brilliant this guy is. Never underestimate the genius of Al Heyman. He is that sharp to the point where Ken Hirschman said, you know what? I don't even want to negotiate with him. Right? That's the problem. He's got guys like Steven Espinosa and Bill Wagner around his pinky.
Hey, Joe, he's so
yes,
smart.
Sir.
He got Caleb Plant. He's so smart. He got Caleb Plant willing to turn down the most money that he'll ever make in his career. That's how smart Al Heyman is. Jesus Christ.
You'll go into the negotiation. You'll go into the negotiation room with Al Heyman, knowing that the sky is blue, and you'll walk out thinking that it's a different shade. Well, you know what? Maybe it's cyan. Maybe it's kind of grayish. Maybe Al Heyman is right. That's how brilliant he is, guys. Why do you think Bob Arum, in a co-promotional effort, will allow Al Heyman to be the lead promoter of every event? Mark my words, guys. If this deal gets made with Crawford versus Porter, PBC will be the lead promoter on that event. And Arum will say, fuck it. I don't want to argue with Al Heyman. He's that brilliant.
This is a lawyer. Hold up, Joseph. We ain't talking about just know anybody. This is a well-respected lawyer in Bob Arum.
He's a Harvard law guy. Yep. Keep in mind, guys, Steven Espinosa is a brilliant attorney. He was the attorney for Golden Boy before he got the job at Showtime. This guy is one of the smartest guys in the business. And Al Heyman, dude, treats him like a marionette. Right? Mm. That's the reality, guys. So that's the problem. That's the problem. Heyman gets the smartest guys to do his bidding. And that's it. And once again, these guys can't do a damn thing about it if Al Heyman is that sharp. Make no mistake about it. I've heard it from more than, 4 or 5 different people.
Hey, Joseph, you know this man is powerful.
In a debate or an argument with Al Heyman, he's that smart. Yep.
Hey, Joe, you know this guy is that powerful. When all these fighters, before they even say thank God, they say thank you, Al Heyman.
So let's keep going.
They say thank you.
Dragon Leg, thank you for joining us, brother. What's popping, brother? Well, I tell you what,
Dragon Leg, what's up, my guy?
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Canelo versus Benavidez, Cinco de Mayo 2022 for the undisputed at 168 in Azteca Stadium, 100,000 seats. Boy, that would be something to behold.
I mean, it sounds nice.
In my opinion, we should have we should be gearing up for Mexican Independence Day with Benavidez versus Canelo. In my opinion, that would be a bigger sell than Caleb Plant. That'd be a bigger event.
Yeah, that is a good. Yeah, like
Snoop.
That's a good service though. Like, and
Go ahead,
Go
sir.
ahead, Joe.
All
Go
right.
ahead, read
Snoop
the comment.
says Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castano didn't get a worthy date. They should have placed it after the NBA Finals. Just my opinion. I like PBC, but some events by them aren't prioritized as much. And once again, this has been my biggest.
Can I answer that?
Go ahead, sir.
I feel like that was a great date for Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano. The reason why it turned out to not be such a great date because the fight the following week fell off. That was a great date leading into July 24th, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury trilogy. So I think it was a great date. Your thoughts, Joe?
Well, just being there at the AT&T arena, home of the San Antonio Spurs, which it's funny. I talked to Jamel, and I said, brother, are your feet burning that you're stepping into the home of the Spurs, seeing that you're an avid Rockets fan? He looked at me and he goes, man, shut up. Why do you have to bring that up, man, on the night that I fight? I'll tell you this. Jamel was in such good spirits all week. He really impressed me. This is the first time I've ever seen him carry a promotion. Can you hear me, guys?
Man.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you good, Joe.
Can you hear me, guys? Okay, I'm good?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Yes. Yeah, this is the very first time I've ever seen him carry a promotion, right? In which he was the obvious A side. And he did a great job. He was always in a good mood, even though he was having a hard time making weight, smiling for everyone, taking pictures with the Boys and Girls Club of San Antonio, giving away free tickets, shaking hands.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job with all of the media, and he wasn't his customarily ornery self, right? He wasn't full of piss and vinegar this time. He was actually really professional. So I have to give credit to Tim Smith, the PBC, for coaching him the way he did. He did a great job. Correct?
Joe, I'm glad you brought that up. Man, Jermell Charlo did a phenomenal job. And this is what's wrong with boxing right here.
He did.
We know how Jermell Charlo is. We know this is a guy whose attitude could go from 0 to 100 real quick, right? This guy came in here the ultimate professional, right? And you know what, Joe? It seemed like nobody but me and you, just me and you only, are talking about how outstanding this guy held down this card that he was carrying. Like Jermell Charlo did a phenomenal job. I'm here to give him all his credit. This is great for the sport. Absolutely phenomenal for the sport, the way he carried himself. And Joseph, not only that, he had some backlash in it, you know, when that coward of Deontay Wilder said he deserves to get slapped because he just said race didn't matter when it came to that fight. So even he had that going. He still didn't let that get him out of character. Yeah, he had a few choice words, but he had his few choice words, and he let it go through one ear and out the other, and he let it go, and he carried himself like a professional to the end of the fight.
Yeah, he really impressed me all week. And it's funny, the first question I asked him, I said, look, all these media members are dogging you about, they're hounding you about pound for pound status. I said, what means more to you, Jermell? Being on every fat journalist pound list, or recognized as the fourth major professional franchise of Houston, Texas, and becoming a part of the Clutch City dynasty? He looked at me and he goes, oh shit, man. He goes, dude, I thought I had pressure on my shoulders before, but damn. He was a really good sport the entire week, and he did a really great job. But going back to your question, because of Jermell's hard work, because he did a fine job as well as PBC promoting that event regionally, there was a really healthy turnout. They did a really solid gate on the shoulders of Jermell Charlo, because most people didn't know who Brian Castano was, right? Well, they found out who he was that night, but Jermell did a great job, and I think PBC did the best they could. Now, keep in mind, guys, what goes into these dates, it all has to do with the network. If Showtime tells you that these are the dates that we have, there's not much that a promoter can do about it, right? Keep in mind, guys, it's not just the promoter. It's Steven Espinosa. If he goes, we've got this date, because he has to answer to Showtime for his sports programming, right? If that's the date that's available to Heyman, then he can't do a damn thing about it, regardless of what else is going on in the other sports entertainment fields, right? So once again,
But do you think that was a bad date, though, Joe? Do you think that was a bad date?
Going on at the same time as the NBA Finals? Yes.
Oh, okay.
Look, the last, and once again, you don't want to compete with the NFL or the NBA or the World Series or anything like that. Look, there's a reason, guys, why no major boxing events are going to be happening this weekend. Because no one wants to compete with the effing Olympics, right? So the last thing you want to do is compete with a major mainstream sporting event, right? But they had no choice, and I thought PBC did a fine job in making the most of what they were given. Dragon leg salute, brother.
Joe,
Go ahead,
I
sir.
just think because like that Deontay Wilder fight fell off before this Jermell Charlo fight was happening, I think that's what took steam off of it because everybody was in tune to this fight. I think if that Deontay Wilder fight wouldn't have fell off, I think the Brian Castano versus Jermell Charlo fight would have did a lot more because then you would have had them talking about how the Wilder fight was next week. I think that did detriment to this fight. That's the reason why you could say it's a bad date now. Just my opinion is because that Wilder versus Fury trilogy fight didn't happen the following week.
Well, I understand, brother. And yes, it would have been a much bigger. Well, keep in mind, though, that was a Fox event. That was a Fox ESPN event. Showtime wouldn't have been promoting that event anyway, even if it was PBC relevant, right? They wouldn't have been promoting that event anyway. Steven Espinosa wouldn't have been. So that doesn't make any difference, right? But I tell you what. So Troll Master Mike says this, and this is, hey, man, anything is welcome on this forum, right? We just thank you for joining us, and we want to urge you, please like and subscribe to Warbeak Radio. He says this, Corey, interesting. Old Foreman versus Old Holmes, Prime Foreman versus Prime Holmes. Wow.
I got Larry Holmes. Joe. I ain't gonna lie to you, Joe. Joe,
well, which one? Old or Prime? Old or Prime? Which one?
No. Well, I'm gonna say both, right? Because see,
shit.
Like because Larry Holmes fought all the way through. This is my thing right here. I think Larry Holmes, not from the diehard fans, but I think he get disrespected a lot. I think it's easily you can make Larry Holmes one of the top 3 heavyweights of all time. I just want to know your thoughts on that, since you've been covering the sport longer than me.
You know what, brother? I would agree. I don't know about top 3, but definitely top 5. Larry Holmes is an all-time great. A Prime Foreman, though, geez, man, he had that chin. He had that power. He had that size. He was the relentless. I mean, he was relentless, man. Until he lost to Ali, he was considered by most to be unbeatable. Larry Holmes, though, because he came at a time, and you can relate to this. He was like Danny White coming after Roger Staubach, right?
Oh, Lord. Boy, hold up, Joe. Hold up. I'm not going to go. Boy, that's a hell of a goddamn assessment right there. I just want to, but that's a hell of a goddamn Joseph motherfucking Heron. That's a hell of a motherfucking assessment. But carry on, sir. I'm sorry. I just had to give you credit. That's a hell of an assessment.
No, that's the only reason why Larry Holmes didn't get the credit that he so greatly deserved, right? Because he followed a very popular heavyweight champion, a guy who at one point in time was as world renowned as John Paul the Pope, right? He was as well known as he was one of the biggest celebrities in the world, if not the biggest, right? And so how do you follow that?
Hey, let me ask you a question real quick, Joe.
Go ahead, sir.
Do you think that hurt him too with the public because Ali was so beloved when he beat Ali? Even though I feel like when I was watching that fight, he showed Ali a lot of respect. I feel like Foreman held back on. Yeah. He carried him through that fight. So I think a lot of the fans turned on him because he beat the beloved star, and it was bad.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, it didn't help matters that he beat the brakes off of a mustached Muhammad Ali. Oh my gosh, the Muhammad Ali with a mustache. Come on, guys. Oh, he shouldn't have been competing any longer. A shell of himself. And it made Larry Holmes cry after the fight. Now, keep in mind, the guy who was Ali's sparring partner as he was coming up, right? Larry Holmes, though, when you look at this matchup, you have arguably the greatest jab in the history of the heavyweight division taking on arguably the hardest puncher in the history of the heavyweight division. Who wins? Obviously, Holmes had the greater technical prowess, but damn, Foreman had the ultimate neutralizer in those ham hocks he carried around. That guy was hitting you with tree trunks. So who wins? Corey, who wins this fight?
I got to go with Larry Holmes, man. I'm always pick technical over power. Like that's just fundamental skills that matters to me
in the heavyweight division. Look, if it's in any other division, if it's any other division except for the heavyweights, I would agree with you. But dude, heavyweights are different. It's like there's boxing and then there's heavyweight boxing, brother.
We didn't always see the heavyweight we didn't always see the heavyweight get knocked out though, Joe. That's the reason why I made my assessment like that, because even though it's the heavyweight division, and one thing you schooled me on, and I take, when you on that elite level, it matters if it's the heavyweight division or not, it's hard to knock them guys out. And I stand with you, it's the heavyweight division. One punch could change it. But Joseph, you put this in my head, bro. So it's your fault, I think, like this. When you on that elite level, it's your fault. Yep. When you on that elite level, it's hard to knock. Joseph, you made me a believer in that, brother.
No, and that's absolutely true. Look, Holmes, even though he was floored by great big punchers, right? Ernie Shavers comes to mind. He got up and won the fight, right? But he didn't have the same chin Ali had. Ali had a freakish chin, and obviously we saw what happened as a result of that. But that guy, he had an amazing threshold for pain. That is unrivaled. That's what made Ali so spectacular. His ability to just take any shot up and dust himself off and beat your ass. Was Holmes cut from that same cloth? I don't know about that. A prime Foreman versus a prime Holmes, I don't know, man. I really don't know that. In my opinion, just everything that about the heavyweight division, I would have to favor power and chin. So I would favor Foreman. Now, as far as old Holmes and old Foreman, the old Larry any day of the week, the Eastern assassin. Yeah, thank
But
you,
Joe,
thank
but
you for
Joe,
that beautiful
Joseph,
topic, brother.
but look though, but see, but Joseph, this is where I would disagree with you at, because we have to give George Foreman credit for coming back and winning the heavyweight title. That so wouldn't we put the
Yep,
old
you sure did.
George Foreman over the old Larry Holmes? I mean, that's what I would put the younger Holmes over over the younger Foreman, but I would put the older Foreman over the older Holmes.
Let me ask you
But
this:
like I said, it's just my
Would
that's my
Larry, would
opinion,
an
Joe. Like I
old
say,
Okay, well, no. I respect your opinion, and you bring up a great point. But let me ask you this: look at the situation. Would Larry Holmes be foolish enough to stand right in front of an old George Foreman? No. Michael Moore, I don't know what the
no.
hell was going through his head. He was
No.
dominating that fight. Come on. I mean, dude, most people looked at that fight as a joke. And Michael Moore was schooling George Foreman. Okay? For the entire first 10 rounds of that fight. He had it in the bag. Why stand in front of George Foreman and say, hey, man, I'm right here. Hit me. Why would he do that? I don't think an old Larry Holmes would be that stupid. Yeah. But anyway, man, I look, it's a soft place in my heart. One of the very first interviews I ever did upon becoming a journalist was with the Easton Assassin. And because I worked with Emmanuel Stewart, I'm very biased here. Because I worked with Emmanuel Stewart and I was told horror stories of how Michael Moore treated Emmanuel Stewart. So yes, I'm all in with the Easton Assassin. Yeah. Oh, my brother Mohammed, how are you doing, my friend? Salute, Joseph. Do you believe what Plant said? Specifically, if he gets sick or hurt, Canelo gets a late replacement for the same purse. But if it's Canelo that's sick or hurt, they got to wait for him. We went over this at the beginning of the show. And of course I believe it, because that's the reality. No one is paying to see Caleb Plant. So of course, everyone's paying to see Canelo. So if he gets sick or hurt or injured, yeah, you can easily put in David Benavidez. And guess what? It probably sells better. But if Canelo falls off the card, is Caleb Plant selling any pay-per-view units without Canelo? No. Oh, Muhammad once again says there are rumors of Canelo versus Bivol. And you know what, brother? That is a natural assessment, because Dimitri Bivol, he's a guy who already fights for Eddie Hearn in Matchroom Sport. That's the easiest fight to make. But if the zone has anything to say about it, they're going to want Triple G versus Canelo Alvarez. Right? Systematic, thank you for joining us, brother. Sources say that Amir Khan is moving up to 168 for a mega showdown and a rematch against Canelo. Okay. Sources say, brother, I don't know what sources you're talking to, but that's not happening. But thank you for joining us, Systematic. Can't wait. Well, can't wait. You're going to have to wait for a long time, because that's not happening. Amir Khan at 168. This guy didn't have a chin at 140. Against big punchers against a big puncher like Canelo at 168, he was already flattened. Is that supposed to be a joke, Systematic? I'm going to take it as a joke, brother. Troll Master Mike says, best jab in the world, respect to Holmes, but Norman's telephone pole is not far behind. Yep, that's absolutely right. But you know what? I'm partial to the Easton Assassin. I'm going to pick Holmes all day long. At least when he's old, not in his prime. In his prime for prime, I'll get Foreman all day long. Right? Corey, is there anything that you want to address before we bid everyone an excellent evening? Because I'm about. Okay, Corey, are you ready for this? I'm about to do a shot of Jack Daniels. How do you like that?
Oh yeah. Oh, come on, man. Come on, do that shot, brother. Go on, pull that shit
All
up.
right, brother. Here it is.
And everybody around the world, if you drinking, pull that shit up with Joe. Say, I don't know if y'all know, but this is my guy, and I call him Smoking Joe. Because look, Joseph Heron is like a marksman, right? Look, listen to me, Joseph. And I'm not gassing you up, so don't think I'm just trying to gas you up to make you feel good. I say this, and I really mean this. Joseph Heron is like an assassin who could sit 1,000 feet away and get that scope on you. Right? I mean, he's like a marksman. He can he could sit 1,000 feet away and get that scope on you. Then that assassin in him will take you out when it come to talking this boxing. Boy, Joseph, you is bruh.
No,
you're a bad man.
I'm a nice guy, man. I wouldn't do that, brother.
No, not I'm talking about them.
Oh, God bless you, Corey. You are as well.
In boxing terms, no, but I'm just keeping it a buck with you, bro.
I know, dude. Look. I honestly, brother, I dislike conflict. I don't like debate, man, especially with fans. I have a lot of respect for anyone who has that same passion for the sport of boxing. And last night on your show, if you guys want to go back and listen, it's on record on Corey's platform, Mr. IOTBA, right? I got into it. What was his name? What was his name, Corey?
Lennar?
No. I like Lennar. No, it was someone was trying to stand me up on my
Thomas C.
Yeah. So if you guys want to hear a good throwdown, right, with me and and an avid boxing fan, Thomas C., go to Corey's platform on YouTube.
IOTBA Boxing Talk.
And please subscribe, guys. But yeah, I got into it with
no. But look, let me finish giving you your flowers, bro. Like, this ain't no bad thing I'm saying about Joe. Because, see, one thing I learned from him is to be across the board with it. You know, like, he has really showed me that. It's been like a mentorship with Joseph Heron where he have showed me the ins and outs. You know, it's just like the ins and outs, just like a fighter, the different angles you have to take, you know, throw the stiff jab, you know, body shots. He showed me all of that. Like, Joe, straight up.
Well, hey, brother, thank you for working with me and Lee, man, on Fight Saga. It's going to be interesting. And I'm really looking forward to your coverage for Ortiz versus Paulo Yazquez coming up in 3 weeks, man.
Dude, that's why I know. Yeah, but that's why when that dude had made that statement about you earlier, like, game recognized game. You know, it's a crying goddamn shame. You know, people will believe false narratives, for they believe Joe is like a fucking dictionary to me in boxing. He's the dictionary of fucking boxing because he could give like that analogy he made earlier. I forgot what analogy it was, but I stopped him and gave
Danny
him a
White,
big old
Roger Staubach, man.
Yeah, Roger Staubach. Just analogies like that. Like, who does that shit like that? And if you know like the history of sports, that is a hell of a fucking analogy, bro. Seriously.
Well, especially if you're from Texas, man, because I blew, man. And guys, don't hate me for saying this, but I died Dallas Cowboys, right? And yeah, I was such a huge proponent of Danny White, and he never got any credit because he came after the beloved Roger Staubach and the revered Roger Staubach. And I love Roger Staubach, but dude, Danny White just couldn't catch a break, man. Not from Tom Landry, not from the fans, not from anybody. But I tell you what, that's for another debate or another topic. Dragon Leg is still with us. He says Khan might die by the same counterpunch that floored him. Yeah, systematic. That's not happening, brother. Honestly, Khan should stick with trying to make that fight with Kell Brook finally. 2 shot fighters.
Hey, Joe, speaking of that. Joe, who was at fault? Who was at fault for that? I don't want you to go too far without going back. Because you just brought it up. He should fight Kell Brook. Who was at fault, in your opinion, of covering the business of that fight not happening?
Oh, gosh, it was obviously Amir Khan. Amir Khan at the time was the bigger commodity globally, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was the bigger market value. He had the bigger market value. And Kell Brook was in his prime. He was the bigger guy, the bigger puncher, undefeated in his prime, right? Obviously, it was Amir Khan that avoided that. Amir Khan didn't want any of that smoke, brother.
How history gonna treat Amir Khan for not? How will history treat him?
Amir
for
Khan
not taking fight. Like I'm honestly.
In the UK. Oh, dude, he's a legend in the UK. Man.
Yeah, in the UK.
Look what he did as an amateur and in the Olympics. Right? That's all you need. And then, dude, he as a pro, a decorated champion. Right?
He was awesome. He
was in several big events. I mean, dude, look what he did to Zab Judah.
Yeah. Beat the shit out
right?
of him. Yeah, you're right.
Dude, he made him quit.
Yeah. I mean, talk that shit, Joe.
Amir Khan was a bad dude at one point in time, man. In fact, there were a lot of people who genuinely believed that Amir Khan would give Floyd Mayweather everything it could handle. I wasn't one of those guys, but a lot of people felt, yeah, and it's funny, anyone who came up and argued with me back in the day that Amir Khan was Floyd Mayweather's toughest assignment, right? This was back probably about, 10, 15 years ago. My point was,
you found it.
So let me get this straight. Amir Khan is a guy who fights from mid to long range. You mean to tell me you think Amir Khan is going to get the better of Floyd Mayweather fighting from mid to long range? A guy with the best reflexes in boxing? The best radar in boxing? Really? It's not going to happen. I'm like, dude, he wouldn't even touch Floyd Mayweather. Once again, what made Floyd so special, guys, is not only was he a lot tougher than most people reflexes in boxing. This is a guy who you had to, the only way you could have any kind of semblance of success against Floyd Mayweather is if you cut off that reaction time and fought him in a phone booth, pushed him up against the ropes and leaned on him, like Jose Luis Castillo, like Miguel Cotto, like Marcos Maidana. Those are the only guys who had any semblance of success. So Amir Khan, a guy who stands way on the other side of the ring, fighting from mid to long range. Do you really think he could even touch a guy blessed with the best reflexes in boxing? No way.
Nope.
No way. Amir Khan didn't have a chance back then. Doesn't have a chance now. Troll Master Mike, Cowboys 100%. Thank you, my friend. Tell you what, brother, I'm feeling good. Dak Prescott back in the saddle.
Hey, Joe.
Brother Joe Strummer joined us today. Huh?
Hey, Joe. Boy, he
threw
three interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions in practice today.
You know what, brother? Don't tell me that.
I know.
Don't tell me that. Joe Strummer says Khan made millions of 2 good fights. Yeah. Look, in my opinion, Amir Khan was a donut fighter, and he had so many problems when he moved up and went. He's a guy who was great from mid to long range, but he had nothing on the inside, which is why when he got together with Virgil Hunter, his only defense for someone who tried to fight him underneath was to wrap him up like an octopus it made for a very ugly fight, right? He's a donut fighter. He, in my opinion, he needed to get some combinations on the inside underneath, right, to the body and head. Someone who could actually teach him that, add that new wrinkle to his fight game. Guys like Joe Goosen, guys like Abel Sanchez, James Gogi. Other than that, you know, it's like no one ever bothered training him that way. And that's a damn shame, because he could have become a complete fighter if someone added that new wrinkle to his fight game. But I can understand why they were hesitant in doing that, because, well, he didn't have the greatest chin in the world. Just ask Bradis Prescott. Thank you, Joe Strummer, for joining us. Dragon Leg, brother, we're with you, man. Thank you for hanging with us. Corey, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Because we're now 2 hours into the show, and I'm down to about one half of my bottle of Jack, brother.
Well, yeah, I just want to shout out to everybody on here, wherever you from, to across the pond. You understand me? For tuning in tonight and giving this show a look. I mean, when it comes to Insightful, there's nobody on YouTube who's gonna get, like, I'm not saying it's not other people who got knowledge like Joe, but I haven't heard too many people who have knowledge like this man. So I just want everybody to make sure y'all like and y'all definitely subscribe. Me and Joe, we always be on my channel on IOTBA Boxing Talk. Just push IOTBA and press search. Subscribe to that channel, and I may be going live in about an hour.
Yep. In fact, because I'm nice and inebriated right now, I may join him. Yeah. But let's go to Trollmaster Mike. He says Khan versus David. Oh, stop it. Just stop it, man. Thanks for the laugh, brother.
What did you say?
He said Khan. Oh, I don't even want to repeat it. That's just terrible. Dragon Leg says, do you think Conor Benn Jr., well, Conor Benn, will be a bigger draw than Virgil and Boots in the future? In the UK, that's no doubt. Does he have the natural talent of Virgil and Boots? No, he doesn't. Not even close. Like, Conor Benn is a guy who's a work in progress, right? Give him a couple of years. In fact, he's fighting this Saturday, right? He's competing this Saturday. Give him a couple of years. He's still a work in progress. He's still learning on the job, right? Boy, his dad was a great fighter. Nigel Benn was amazing, right? Conor Benn, though. Just give him some time, guys. Give him some time. Be patient. But Virgil Ortiz, Boots Ennis, those guys are on the bus. Those guys, who does it? What's not to like about Conor Benn? This is a guy who's fearless and who throws down. He's always in an entertaining fight, almost to a fault, right? But give him a couple of years. He's going to be a big attraction in the UK, and he's still learning on the job. Be patient, right? But Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis, boy, those guys are on the cusp of being considered elite at 147.
Are they ready, Joe? They ready right now, Joe? Are they ready right now?
I think they're ready right now. We'll find out, though, on August 14th if Virgil Ortiz is the goods, because his chin is going to be tested against arguably the hardest puncher in the division, Igas Kawaskas. Right?
And I'm going to be there covering it for FightSaga.com, man.
Yes, you are, brother, and we are proud to have you on board. Thank you, Corey. Dragon Leg agrees. Joe Strummer is hanging with us. Thank you, brother Joe, for joining us and hanging with us still. Do you think Fox drops PBC now? I'll tell you this. If Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence Jr. doesn't do at least 1 million pay-per-view buys, it's over. It's over for PBC on Fox. Okay?
Joseph, it's
Mark
not
my
gonna do no
words, it's
million,
over.
Joseph. They're not doing no million, Joe.
Well, let's just cross
you
our
might as
fingers
well say
and hope for the
it's
best.
over then, because I don't see them where they doing a million bars.
Well, let's hope you're wrong, Corey. And
I hope it's over.
Let's hope for the best, man. Because to be honest with you, think about this, guys. And this is why when promoters give you great events, you should all show up. You should all turn up. Because think about this, his roster of hardworking fighters. Think about this. If they lose all of those dates on Fox, where are they going to fight? They're already, like, Heyman is already having a problem keeping his entire roster.
But let me ask you a question, though.
Right? Go ahead, sir.
Yep. But that's not the fight we want, Joe. That's what I'm saying. That's not the fight we want. I said that's not the fight we want, but, you know, it is what it is. It's still a good fight. I agree with you on that.
If
Joe, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can hear you now. Can hear you now.
You can hear me now.
Yes,
Very
sir.
good. Okay. Sorry about that. Look, you're absolutely right, Corey. And if fans are a little perturbed that they haven't received Crawford versus Spence, well, they should be. But guys, Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence is a AAA fight. That is a great fight. Like, and I understand that Manny Pacquiao's at 42 years of age, right? But this is still for the ring recognized 147-pound title, right? That means that this is a great matchup. The Ring Magazine, say what you want about them, but they only offer their belt for any event if it's a great matchup. And if it's 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2, somewhere around there, right? No, it's not Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. That's the best fight that could be made at 47 at this time, right? But it's the next best thing. Muhammad Joseph. Oh, thank you, brother. God bless you, man. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate your support, man. God bless you, Muhammad. Brother Antonio from Long Beach, California. Thank you for joining us. So Canelo versus Triple G 3. Gentlemen, I'll take it, Antonio. I'll take it all day long. Brother, even at age 39, it's still going to be an awesome fight, right? And one of the reasons why, and I went over this earlier, Brother Triple G, he lives the Spartan lifestyle, right? He lives the Spartan lifestyle. This is a guy who doesn't blow up between fights, right? He doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs. This is the guy who always gets the most of himself in fights. I'm looking forward to another great competitive fight if it does indeed happen. Corey, answer this one. Any chance Canelo faces Charlo next? Brother Muhammad, thank you, man. Corey, you there, brother? Can you guys hear me?
You said what, Joe?
So Muhammad asked.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I
just didn't hear your question.
Okay, he asks, any chance Canelo faces Charlo next?
Nope, because if this fight didn't happen with PBC, with Undisputed, there's no way any other fight is gonna happen with them. Like this is just absolutely. No. I'm gonna just give you a definitive no. Everybody done seen how PBC handled this Caleb Plant situation and how they handled a lot of other situations. So my definitive answer is no.
You know what? I would agree with that. Thank you for your question, Brother Muhammad. Champ joins us. Thank you
Hey,
for
Joe.
joining us, my friend. Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's been a good 2 hours, man.
All right, brother. Well, we're gonna have to sign off then. We're over the 2 hour mark. God bless all of you guys. Thank you for joining us. In case you missed any part of the show,
Hey, let's do it. Let's do it
please,
again tomorrow night, Joe. 9 o'clock.
let's do it again. I tell you what, 9 o'clock. Then that's if it's out of Correa's mouth, then we're gonna do it. 9 o'clock tomorrow, guys. We're gonna reconvene. Thank you for
So
participating
y'all
in the
hit them
show.
bell notifications. Hit the bell notifications so y'all could get when we go live here on War Week Radio.
God bless all of you guys and have a wonderful Tuesday evening. Happy Tuesday, everybody.